Welcome to the world of English literature, and the book of the day is Great Expectations, written by Charles Dickens. As you can see, Mr. Dickens down there, he was born in 1812 and he died in 1870. Now, Great Expectation is a classic novel written by Charles Dickens and first published in 1860. The story follows the life of an orphan named Pip, who grows up in rural England with his sister and her husband. Now, the narrative explores themes of social class, identity, and morality as Pip passes through the challenges and opportunities presented by an unexpected inheritance. Now, the novel is known for its vivid characters, intricate plot twists, and Dickens' sharp social commentary. It remains a timeless work in literature, addressing the complexities of human nature and societal expectations. Now, let's go to the summary of the novel without further ado. Philip Pip or Pirip is a 7-year-old orphan who lives with his hot-tempered older sister and her kind blacksmith husband Joe Gargery on the coastal marshes of Kent. On Christmas Eve 1812, Pip visits the graves of his parents and siblings. There he unexpectedly encounters an escaped convict from jail who threatens to kill him if he does not bring back food and tools. Pip steals a file from among Joe's tools and a pie and brandy that were meant for Christmas dinner, which he delivers to the convict. Now, that evening, some soldiers arrive and ask Joe to mend some shekels. Joe and Pip accompany them to the marshes to recapture the convict, who they find fighting with another escaped convict. Now, the first convict confesses to stealing food, clearing Pip. A few years later, Miss Havisham, a wealthy and reclusive spinster who lives in a dilapidated satis house wearing her old wedding dress after having been jilted, means left away at the altar in church, asks Mr. Pumblechook, a relative of the Gargery, to find a boy to visit her. Now, Pip visits Miss Havisham and falls in love with Estella. Estella is a girl who is Miss Havisham's adopted daughter. Now, Estella is aloof and hostile to Pip. She doesn't like Pip, which Miss Havisham encourages. During one visit, another boy, Pip, picks a fist fight with Pip, where Pip easily gains the upper hand. Now, Estella watches all this and allows Pip to kiss her afterwards. Pip visits Miss Havisham regularly until he is old enough to learn a trade. Joe accompanies Pip for the last visit to Miss Havisham, at which she gives Pip money to become an apprentice blacksmith. Joe's surly assistant, Dolce Orlick, is envious of Pip. He doesn't like Pip and dislikes Mrs. Joe. Orlick also complains when Joe says he needs to take Pip somewhere midday, thinking this is another sign of favoritism. Now, when Pip and Joe are away from the house, Joe's wife is brutally attacked, leaving her unable to speak or do her work. When Pip sees a leg iron was the weapon used in the attack, he becomes worried, believing that it was the same leg he helped to liberate the convict from. Now, bedridden, Mrs. Joe is unable to be a rampaging towards Pip as before the attack. Pip's former schoolmate Biddy joins the house to help with her care. Now, 4 years into Pip's apprenticeship, Mr. Jaggers, a lawyer, informs him that he is being provided with money from an anonymous patron, allowing him to become a gentleman. Presuming that Miss Havisham is his benefactress, Pip visits her before leaving for London. Now, Pip's first experience with urban England is a shock. For London is not the soft, white city that Pip imagined, but a place of heavy litter and filth. Pip moves into Barnard's Inn with Herbert Pocket, the son of his tutor Matthew Pocket, who is Miss Havisham's cousin. Pip realizes Herbert is the boy he fought with years ago. Herbert tells Pip, how Miss Havisham was defrauded and deserted by her fiancé. Pip meets fellow pupils Bentley Dremel, a brute of a man from a wealthy noble family, and Startop, who is a more agreeable colleague. Jaggers disburses the money Pip needs. Now, during a visit, Pip meets Jaggers' housekeeper Molly, a former convict. When Joe visits Pip at Barnard's Inn, Pip is ashamed to be seen with him. Joe relays a message from Miss Havisham that Estella will be visiting her. Now Pip returns there to meet Estella and is encouraged by Miss Havisham, but he avoids visiting Joe. He is disquieted to see Orlick now in service to Miss Havisham. He mentions his misgiving to Jaggers, who promises Orlick's dismissal. Now back in London, Pip and Herbert exchange their romantic secrets. Pip adores Estella, and Herbert is engaged to Clara. Pip meets Estella when she is sent to Richmond to be introduced into society, and Pip and Herbert build up debts. Mrs. Joe dies, and Pip returns to his village for her funeral. Pip's income is fixed at £500. That is equivalent to 45,000 in 2021. That is nowadays almost per annum when he comes of age at 21. With the help of Jaggers' clerk, John Wemmick, Pip plans to help advance Herbert's future prospects by anonymously securing him a position with the shipbroker Clericus. Now Pip takes Estella to Satis house, where she and Miss Havisham quarrel over Stella's coldness. In London, Drummle outrages Pip by proposing a toast to Stella. Later, at an assembly ball in Richmond, Pip witnesses Estella meeting Drummle and warns her about him. She replies that she has no qualms about entrapping him. Now, a week after his 23rd birthday, Pip learns that his benefactor is the convict he encountered in the churchyard, Abel Magwitch, who had been transported to New South Wales after being captured. He has become wealthy after gaining his freedom there, but cannot return to England on pains of death. However, he returns to see Pip, who was the motivation for all his success. A shocked Pip stops taking Magwitch's money, but devises a plan with Herbert to help him escape from England. Now Magwitch shares his past with Pip and reveals that the escaped convict whom he fought in the churchyard was Compeyson, the fraudster who had deserted Miss Havisham. Pip returns to Satis house to visit Estella and meets Drummle, who has also come to see her and now has Orlick as his servant. Now Pip confronts Miss Havisham for misleading him about his benefactor, but she says she did it to annoy her relatives. Pip declares his love to Estella, who coldly tells him that she plans on marrying Drummle. A heartbroken Pip returns to London, where Wemmick warns him that Compeyson is looking for him. Now at Jagger's house at dinner, Wemmick tells Pip how Jagger acquired his maidservant Molly, rescuing her from the gallows when she was accused of murder. A remorseful Miss Havisham tells Pip how she raised Estella to be unfeeling and heartless, ever since Jaggers brought her in as an infant with no information on her parentage. She also tells Pip that Estella is now married. She gives Pip money to pay for Herbert's position at Clericus and asks for his forgiveness. As Pip is about to leave, Miss Havisham's dress catches fire and Pip injures himself in an unsuccessful attempt to save her. Realizing that Estella is the daughter of Molly and Magwitch, Pip is discouraged by Jaggers from acting on his suspicions. A few days before Magwitch's planned escape, Pip is tricked by an anonymous letter into going to a sluice house near his old home, where he is seized by Orlick, who intends to murder him and freely admits to injuring Pip's sister. Now, as Pip is about to be struck with a hammer. Herbert and Startop arrive and save him. The three of them pick up Magwitch to row him to the steamboat for Hamburg, but they are met by a police boat carrying Compassion, who has offered to identify Magwitch. Now, Magwitch seizes Compassion and they fight in the river. Seriously injured, Magwitch is taken by the police. Compassion's body is found later. Now, aware that Magwitch's fortune will go to the crown after his trial, Pip visits a dying Magwitch in the prison hospital and eventually tells him that his daughter Estella is alive. Herbert, who is preparing to move to Cairo, Egypt, to manage clerical's office, offers Pip a position there. After Herbert's departure, Pip falls in his room and faces arrest for debt. However, Joe nurses Pip back to health and pays off his debt. After recovering, Pip then returns to propose to Biddy, only to find that she has married Joe. Pip apologizes to Joe, vows to repay him, and leaves for Cairo. There he moves in with Herbert and Clara and eventually advances to become third in the company. Only then does Herbert learn that Pip paid for his position in the firm. Now, after working 11 years in Egypt, Pip returns to England and visits Joe, Biddy, and their son Pip Jr. Then, in the ruins of Satis House, he meets the widowed Estella, who asks Pip to forgive her, assuring him that her misfortune and her abusive marriage to Drummle until his death has opened her heart. As Pip takes Estella's hand and they leave the moonlit ruins, he sees no shadow of another parting from her. That is, now he expects that there will be no separation between him and Estella. So they unite at the end of the novel. This is the end of Great Expectations. With another book of art, we will be back in another video. Until then, take care of yourself and give your feedback in the comments. Thank you very much. Take care. Goodbye.